Would you mind telling me what brings you to AIT?
There is a program of Global Connection Exchange, and there is a newer program into it called the Net Generation Youth, which collaborates two schools in Africa and schools in the US. So we are in that program on an exchange visit. I'm here with two students for that exchange visit.
And what part do you play in the program?
I am the teacher escort and support to the students.
And what inspired you to get involved in the program?
The world today is becoming a global village. And so it's important for one to be able to know what the whole world is all about and what our small part of the world can be in the bigger picture. And so I was thrilled by the opportunity to participate in this. Africans don't know much about America, and so are the Americans. So when we have this collaboration, we get to learn more about each other.
And so how have you benefited from the experience?
Oh, a lot. There's been a lot of things I've seen here that I would have never known, because we get to know things through films, but now I've experienced New York, real life. The technology here is amazing. The people, I've interacted with the people, the activities, and to get to know what keeps them busy, and the little nitty-gritty things that I've got to discover here and there.
Would you mind telling me how the students got involved in the program?
The students capture events around them. They've got these technology facilities that they use to capture events around them, and then share with each other and see how they can be part of the things they see, and how they can harness them for a better world in the future.
And so what is the biggest difference between the schools in America and Africa?
The schools in America, to begin with, are well facilitated. They have good buildings, good classrooms, and then they are small classes. Possibly they get more attention. Back in Uganda, big classes ranging from 70 students to 100, and the facilities are not that good, must say, having seen the facilities here. And I think the students here are privileged, I must say, and they are good.
And so what has been your favorite part of this visit so far?
New York was an experience for us, going up the Empire State Building and seeing places I just read about, the Apollo Theater, the streets in New York, Wall Street, the New York Stock Exchange, the UN building, and the traffic. It's all exciting. Oh, by the way, back home our traffic goes the other way around. We keep left, not right. And so keeping the other way of the traffic was quite interesting for me.
And so what is the biggest thing you've taken away from the experience?
Well, I think I'm yet to take... from that experience, I've captured ideas of how possibly my part of the world can be improved, and my thinking has changed. I think all my prejudices, I think, have been kind of wiped, and I think I'll have a better world back home.
And what was the most surprising part of your trip?
Surprising? It's hard to well, what would I call surprising? Because everything has been just amazing, more of amazing than surprising. And I was kind of prepared for a fast world, so maybe I didn't get that much of a surprise. But it's just amazing to see that it's a little bigger than even what I thought.
And is there anything else you would like to add?
I've enjoyed my stay. My hosts have been very good. They've been very hospitable. They have taken me places. I'm well fed. And I've liked interacting with the students here in their classes, telling them about my country, my people. It's been quite an eye-opening exercise for me. It's a good exchange visit, and I'm here to share more. Yeah.
This program is basically a cultural exchange program between AIT, Academy of Information Technology, and our sister school in Kampala, Uganda. And the whole idea is to bridge cultural differences and to find out more about each other, particularly among the young people, and what they're doing in terms of schooling, education, social, and otherwise. And we do this through technology, primarily through blogs, emails, and Skype.
And so can you tell me what inspired you to get involved in this program?
Well, it's funny you should ask me that, because originally I was invited to join and I was a little hesitant and reluctant because I have such a busy life both in school and outside of school. So I sat for a couple of meetings and I saw a few emails from Paul. He's our visiting guest right now, and some of the other faculty from Chemical College in Kampala. And I was offered to go because no one else was really able to go to Kampala. And being that I was familiar with the program, and also I teach African history here at AIT, they thought I was a suitable choice. So I went, and my expectations, well, I didn't really know what my expectations were. However, upon seeing the school and seeing the faculty and seeing the students and talking with staff, it gave me a better understanding of what life was like in East Africa, particularly in Kampala, Uganda.
And how have you benefited from the program?
Oh, greatly. A lot of times, rich nations such as the United States likes to offer advice to developing countries, but we tend to forget that we can learn a lot from developing countries, countries where resources are scarce and where funding is hard to come by. So what I brought back from Uganda, from Kampala in particular, is my own methods of teaching and how I could better service my students from what I learned from my peers in Uganda.
And so what did you do on your trip?
Well, during the 3 weeks while we were there, we visited the school, of course. We spent a great deal amount of time in school. We observed several classrooms. We observed the facilities. We talked with teachers. We interacted with teachers. We saw the cultural sights and sounds of Uganda, the Uganda National Museum. We went to Parliament, so we know how government functions in Uganda. We saw traditional African villages, the zoo. These are just some of the things that we've done during our 3-week visitation to Uganda.
And what did the students have to do to be part of this trip?
I beg your pardon?
What did the students have to do?
The students, they had to undergo an interview process, submit essays, interview essays, and pretty much that was about it. We had many students who applied, but ultimately there was only 2 slots for 2 students.
And what do you think the students took back from the experience?
Oh, a greater understanding of, I'm going to avoid saying African society and culture, because Africa is a continent, but particularly East African society. They learned a lot about what it's like to be in a developing country, and they can appreciate the resources that they have here. Oftentimes, American students complain, frivolous things when you think about it. The internet service is slow, okay, or the internet is not working at all. Where in Chemical, internet is scarce. Not everyone has a laptop. Not everyone has 24/7 service, if you will, on the internet. So I think that's what they came. I think they walked away with a great appreciation of what we have here in the States.
And what is the biggest difference between the 2 schools?
Oh, the biggest difference, I guess, would be site. I mean, here we're in this nice, $40 million building, whatever, how much it costs. Air conditioned, nice gleaming classrooms, good facilities. Where in Chemical, the facilities are not in the best of conditions. By American standards, the facilities at Chemical will be substandard. But yet with that, the students are actively engaged at Chemical College in Kampala. They learn, okay, and many of them go on to be successful and productive citizens in their country.
And what is the biggest thing you're going to miss from your trip?
Well, the biggest thing I missed from the trip was just the hospitality. They treated myself as well as our two students very graciously with open arms, like we were family, like we were long-lost relatives, and I surely will miss them.
And what was your experience in the host home like?
Oh, fabulous. I was treated like royalty. They're very good to me. They treated me like I was my host person treated me like I was his brother. So sometimes they had to do things. They would leave me in the house, and I told them, you don't have to take me with you. Just pretend I'm a relative, and you just leave me in the house. So they treated me with respect, with kindness, great warm hospitality.
And how has your perspective changed ever since the trip?
I wouldn't say my perspective has really changed, because being that I am a historian, I look at society, and I teach sociology. I look at society a little bit differently from other people. But I will say though, it's one thing to read something or see something in the movies. Okay, but it's another thing to actually experience it, because I read about Uganda, particularly during the 70s when Idi Amin was in power, and I read all about, the problems they have there. But seeing it firsthand, seeing it up close and personal, was very, very different. I imagine I was going over there that there'll be turmoil and political unrest and political instability. While Uganda has its political problems, I didn't experience any of that. I felt completely safe. Not once was I ever endangered, and my life was ever endangered. So I learned that it's one thing to read something, but to actually experience it physically firsthand is something different.
And what part do you play in this program?
I'm a student, and I'm the exchange visitor to AITE.
And can you tell me a little bit about the program itself?
Wow, it's so wonderful. It's all about bridging the gap between the two worlds, the developed world and maybe the less developed world. We do have programs like media literacy. We learn about how to analyze the media, how to select what we need to actually get from the media. Then there are very many other things like building a global village. There are two worlds here, and we need to harness them to make sure the world is running all around together and making sure we solve problems together.
So what inspired you to get involved?
Because of the themes in the club. One, media literacy, youth leadership, and building a global village is so amazing, because if we build a global village, then we can develop together. If I get to know about media literacy, then I can really know how much I can get into my brain that is very useful. Then leadership is everything that we will get into someday. So it's good that someone gets involved now and you know what leadership is and get to learn much more about leadership.
So what is the difference between the school here and your school back home?
Wow, there are very many differences. The student-teacher relationship back here in AIT is so strong, where a teacher and a student will interact so freely. And this helps students to really learn much more about what they have to learn, like their classes, which is different from Uganda, where a teacher will come in class and feed you with all the information you need, and he walks out. Then school in AITE is well facilitated. There are very many things they can use. The laptops, a student gets a laptop. Back in Uganda, no student gets a laptop. Then the education at AITE drills a lot more talent from the students. For example, you can have a music class, you can have gym, you can go for building design at the same time, which is different. Back in Uganda, class is totally different from co-curricular activity. So you do it at a different time, where it's not like class. While at AITE, it's actually a subject, and you can take it on and build on your talent.
And so what has been the most exciting part of your trip so far?
One, my host family has been so hospitable and treated me like their own son. Just to let you know, they now call me their son, and I call them dad and mom, because they treat me like their son. Then the students at school are so hospitable, the teachers are so hospitable, and we are having fun with them and learning much more about the American culture And it's so amazing that we get to also teach them about the African culture and removing the misconceptions they might be having about Africa and teaching them really, really what Africa is and trying to compare it with America.
What is the biggest thing you feel you've been able to give back?
The African culture. I've been able to teach them what Africa really is, because very many Americans, I should say, have different views about Africa. And it's only not until when you get there or when you go to Africa or you get an African who comes here and really tells you what Africa is all about. But I'm so happy that while we are here, they've gotten to learn about our languages, how our customs are, what values we attach to different things back in Africa, and really, really teaching them much more about African culture.
So what's the most important thing you've learned from this trip?
We need to build a global village together. We need to work together. The different worlds back in Africa and in the US need to work together so that we can have harmony, we can have peace, we can develop together. Because there are very many facilities back this side. We don't have facilities. And if we can come together, like one of the themes of the club NGY is building a global village. If we do that, we can learn much more about their culture, they can learn much more about our culture and build a global village together.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
Yeah. I realized that, okay, I was in New York on Saturday and I visited the World Trade Center, Ground Zero. And I noticed every time we leave, there's someone out there who needs our help. So I learned that the person who did the damage, the person who bombed the World Trade Center, needed to think that he's not actually hurting maybe the US president, but he's actually hurting the whole world. And when we get to think like that and know that when I'm doing this, there's someone I'm affecting, whether my friend or any other person, and knowing that we are a global village, we are one, that's something that we need to learn. And that's everyone else's responsibility, and we need to get into this.
And so would you mind telling me a little bit about your experience in America?
When I come here, the school is so different. You know, we came for a visit in our school here. So the school was so different, the way they learn. In our school back, we use chalk on the blackboard. And then here, I was so surprised, they use what? A projector, smartboard. Students are given laptops. Yet at school, we are not allowed to take any electronics. Nothing like phones, laptops, what, we're not allowed. And the other thing is the traffic lights everywhere. In our country, there are traffic men who work on that. Then the other thing is that everyone here minds his or her own business. It's so quiet where we live. Everyone, okay, now back in Uganda, we cooperate a lot. But then here again, what I saw in school, it's different. Teachers cooperate more with the students, and that makes learning easy. Then in our school, it's different. In most cases, the teacher just comes and teaches, goes away, because there's so many kids. Right, yeah.
And so what has been your favorite part about the experience so far?
The best part? When I went to Pennsylvania, I thought there were no trees here. I thought you people, you know, they said before when we were in Uganda, they said here there are many buildings, what, but when I was there, I saw many trees. Then I saw farms, I saw corn plantations. That was so amazing. They took us around. It was so good. Then the other thing is that the cooperation with the students, that has been the best. I've got an experience because now I'm a student leader at school. If I get this here and take some plans at my school, you never know, it may change. Because they have to call us for assembly like every Monday and Friday at school. But then here it's different. They just communicate, child gets in class. Very easy. So if I take that at my school, since I'm a student leader, talk to the principal, you never know, things may change. Yeah.
And so what made you want to come to America?
Okay, many things are said about America. So they said it's a developed country. So I wanted to come and see how did they make their things, but then I found out it was an old country. So the first thing that made me come to America is to know how they did it, because our country is really non-developed. So we wanted to come and see, get the vision, and take it to our country.
And so what is the biggest thing you're taking away from the experience?
Here, the first thing is that people are not selfish. The leaders here are not selfish. But then the leaders in our country are really selfish. That's why we are so behind. If one has something, they take it for themselves, not for the whole country. So that's what I've got. Get it?
Excuse her. So what is the biggest thing you think you're going to take away from this and bring back to your home country?
The first thing I'm going to take is I'm going to teach the youth how to, what I want to encourage is to stop selfishness, because that's why we're lacking behind. It's because of selfishness. If one has something, they just want it for themselves.
And so what is the biggest thing you're going to miss?
I'm going to miss here. I'm going to miss my home, the host family, then the school too, and the teachers here.
And so what was it like being with the host family for so long?
It was so wonderful. I felt at home. I never felt homesick. It was so wonderful. They treated me well.
And is there anything else you want to add? It's okay, you can leave me to Ashley.
No, that's enough. It was such a good experience, and now we're remaining with, it's not even a full day. It has been 3 weeks, but I feel like 3 days. Oh my God, I'm going to miss America, but one day I'll come back. Thank you.
And so can you tell me a little bit about your experience in Uganda?
It was amazing. My host mom was really nice. People there, I was fascinated by how kind they are. The students are really nice as well. And also, the experience overall was great.
And so what is the biggest difference between America and Ugandan schools?
I think I like their student attitude toward their school. They're very serious. When I go to when I go to their class, everyone's very committed in what they were doing. And yeah.
And so what is the biggest thing you missed from the experience?
I think mostly the food there, because they're very natural and yet they're healthy. They're very different from what we have in here. So I really enjoyed it. In the first few days, I couldn't eat, but afterward, I got really used to it.
And so can you tell me a little bit about the relationships you've made?
My host mom, I have a really big relationship with her. The first day when we went there, she welcomed me, and we watched like photos and stuff. She every time when it's very late, she stay up. So for me, I felt like she's like a mom for me. So I made like a stepmother there.
And would you mind telling me a little bit about how you got involved in the program?
Yeah, it was an interesting. We got here back to school, started doing our teacher in service, and around the same time the hurricane hit. So actually, I think the original host family was hit by Irene. I think that was Miss Benessi, and because of the storm, they weren't able to host. And Mr. Bond put out an email if anyone would be interested, and spoke with my wife, and so we were able to host one of the teachers, which has been a great experience.
And so would you mind telling me a little bit about your relationship with the teacher?
Yeah, his name is Mr. Paul Luare, and Mr. Luare has been with us now for a little over 2 weeks, and when he first came, it was a great cultural exchange, learning about the cultures of Uganda. You know, we've heard stories here in America about African countries and their governments, and I think the big thing for me was when I was a child, I had heard a lot of stories about Idi Amin, a former ruler of Uganda, so it was great to hear many of the stories of Uganda and the plights of the people in Uganda.
And so what type of influence did he have on your household?
I think an awareness of the culture, an awareness of how they live over there as it differs from how we live here. One of the big things that Mr. Loire shared with us was the fact that we have choice. I can remember going to a restaurant with him, and for us, we look at the menu very quickly and we think about, after a couple minutes we could order a meal. For him, it was a 15-minute process because they're not used to choice, and we have that opportunity here in the United States. That was a big thing that I learned from him.
And so how did he interact with your household?
It's been great. My wife is also a teacher. She teaches in the Oxford School District up north a little bit, so he spent a day going to her school district. He was also able to go over and visit my son's school in Monroe, which is Massac High School. He also spent some time with my sister who lives in Trumbull and my other sister who lives in Glastonbury. He spent some time with my mom and dad who live in Stratford, Connecticut. So he's basically been immersed into our family. So I feel like I almost have another brother from Uganda now. So it's been a great experience.
And so how do you think he's adjusted to the American community?
I think for Mr. Loire, it's probably a little easier for him than the students because he's a little more aware of America. He also had the opportunity to go to the United Kingdom, so it's not his first opportunity out of Uganda. Also, I think as an adult, we're probably a little more aware of things than we are growing up as young men and women. So for him, it's been a little different. I think there's been a lot of growth in him as far as what his perceptions were of America. He comes over and thinks it's a land of opportunity, which it absolutely is, but he's also seen that there are challenges here as well.
And so what is the biggest thing you think you've taken from the experience?
Thankful for what I have every day. Thank you for my family, the things I have, and it's funny. I shared a story with him about the fact that in America we all try to get to the top of the mountain. We work so hard to get to the top of the mountain, and sometimes on our way up we might just be satisfied and we stay at a place for a while. Others, we keep going to the top of the mountain. When we get to the top of the mountain, sometimes though we're pretty lonely because we forget how we got there. And so he's kind of taught me that, along the way to your dreams, whatever they are, to make sure that you remember the people around you because they're very important. And some people who aren't as fortunate as you, just to remember them and keep them in your thoughts. And that's probably been the biggest thing that I've taken from him.
And so how do you think he's benefited from the experience?
I think it's been a great experience for him to come over here to see how Americans live, how we think, what our attitudes are towards things. Uganda is a country, if you think about the fact that Uganda gained its independence in 1962, which is, 50 years, a little more than, so they're still beginning as a country. For the United States, for him to think that we've been a country since we declared our independence in 1776, that's drastically different. So Uganda is just beginning. So for him, I think it's fantastic to see the opportunities that the future can bring for them. But it's a long road, and even in America, where we have so much, we're still working to perfect it. So in a place like Uganda, where their freedom came essentially in 1962, they still have a really long road ahead.
And is there anything else we'd like to add?
Just, thank you to the AIT community, the NJY community who allowed this to happen, and it's been a great experience. I can speak for my family where we've been touched, we've been moved, and really thankful for the opportunity, and I hope everybody who's come in contact with this program has really benefited as much as we have. So.
kanyonyi si kanaikondo. Si kanyonyi si kanaikondo. Si kanyonyi si kanaikondo. Si kanyonyi kano kanaikondo. Si kanyonyi si kanaikondo. Si kanyonyi si kanaikondo. Si kanyonyi si kanaikondo. Beni masi tungenda poti yoto tela bila. Si kanyonyi si kanaikondo. Beni masi tungenda poti yoto tela bila. Si kanyonyi si kanaikondo. Si kanyonyi si kanaikondo. Si kanyonyi si Oh, Uganda, may God uphold thee. We lay our future in thy hand. United, free for liberty, together we'll always stand. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bomb bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner